Hey guys, it's the Pie Guy, and I thought I'd tell you guys a pretty interesting story today. I don't normally tell random stories about my life, but I think I made it pretty clear on this channel in the past that I'm a Christian, I'm Methodist, and I never really explained why. But I had what I like to think was a real personal encounter with God. Which is like a crazy thing to say. It's like a crazy thing to say. But I'm in the middle of nature, completely surrounded on all sides by nothing but trees and grass and water. And I'm by myself. And I thought this is just a really nice atmosphere for a story like this. So, here it is. I sort of grew up a Christian. I was raised in the church, pretty much. Born and raised in and around Dacula, Georgia, which is right next to Atlanta. Very nice city. And not that much traffic, actually, which is cool. Anyway, I would always be a part of church activities, and I did it with some of my friends. Like, you guys might remember my buddy Kevin Calloway. He was in a couple of videos from Georgia. A bunch of my other friends. And eventually, I would move to Pennsylvania, and now I'm the co-leader of a youth group, and I'm working at a Christian summer camp all summer this summer, which is, again, why I can't edit YouTube videos. So I've made it pretty clear that I'm a Christian, but my story sort of begins back then, when I was just a wee little lad, and I would have to go to church, and I'd have to get up on Sundays, and I remember doing it because I had to. But eventually, it just became second nature, because whether I wanted to or not, it was just ingrained into my mind. But my perspective changed a little bit when I was 10, maybe 11. I think it was 11. The one summer, I was spending it with my family in Pennsylvania. And then maybe 10. I don't know, either way. I was with my family in Pennsylvania for the summer. So mom and I drove all the way up to PA. I was staying at my great-grandmother's house. I called her Nanny. And the cool thing is that it was right next to my grandmother's house, who I call Mimi. You've seen Mimi in a bunch of YouTube videos. But, by the way, sorry if I seem a little exhausted. I'm walking up a giant hill. How do I get over this tree? I don't know. We're going to figure it out. But anyway, I remember the one night I was staying at Nanny's house, which, by the way, is now my house, because after she would eventually pass away, the house would go to me. Not me, but my mom. Either way, you get what I'm saying. So, a lot of memories were made and still continue to be made in this house. So the one night, really late at night, during summer break, I was really tired, sort of crabby mood, because I was an angsty 9 or 10 or 11-year-old or whatever, and I went to my mom, and I was like, I'm going to go right to bed because I'm tired. And I remember something that will always sort of stick with me. She said, go tell Nanny goodnight. And when I said, I don't really want to, my mom said, you never know when it's going to be the last night, so I don't care that you don't want to, go tell Nanny goodnight. Because, she was getting super old. So, I was like, yeah, whatever, I guess. So, I went to her room, and I told her goodnight, and I gave her a hug, and I gave her a kiss, and told her I loved her, all this stuff. And went to sleep. Had a really weird dream that night. A really bizarre dream that made no sense. So I woke up and I was like, man, I gotta tell my folks about this dream. So I go downstairs, and normally Mimi would come over from the other house. She'd come over to have breakfast with us. It would be me, Mom, Mimi, Nanny, Pop, my grandfather, and maybe one or two other friends, family friends, other family members who stopped by. but no one was there. And it was kind of weird. So I thought, oh, maybe everyone's at Mimi's house. So I ran over to Mimi's house, and sure enough, everyone was there. But when I say everyone, I mean a lot of people. It was my mom and my grandmother and my grandfather, so Mimi and Pop, along with Owen, my cousin, Wawa, who is my Aunt Lisa, Owen's mom, my Uncle Dwayne, Owen's dad, a bunch of family friends, a bunch of random people who I knew their faces but didn't know their names. And I run in and just full of energy, like I always kind of am, aside from right now when I'm hiking up this giant hill, apparently. And everyone went super quiet. It was super weird. And I didn't really know why. So everyone just wasn't talking to me. So I said to them, to try to break the awkward silence, hey guys, I had this really weird dream last night. I'd love to tell you guys about it. And they were like, yeah, that sounds great. Tell us. They all seemed like super eager. Which, you know, I know why now, but at the time, I didn't really care why. I was just happy that they wanted to hear about my dream. So I told them my dream. And as I was explaining the dream more and more, the room, one by one, everybody in that room started to cry. And I was worried that it was something I said, but I kind of just ignored it because I didn't really know how to handle any emotions like that, and I didn't know what was going on, so I just kept telling them my dream. And after I told them my dream, my mom informed me through just tears streaming down her face that my great-grandmother, Nanny, had passed away that night. It took me a long time to get over that, but I'm sure you're all very eager to hear what the dream was. I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was just a weird dream. In the dream, I had gone down to Nanny's room because she lived downstairs in the house. I went down to Nanny's room, and when I walked in, there were 3 people there. Nanny, she was lying on her bed, and then Mimi was there also, so my grandmother, and this really old looking woman. She was like, I had no clue who this lady was. She looked just super old. Like you might know the character in SpongeBob when they're going around selling chocolate. That it goes, chocolate, I love chocolate. That lady? Yeah. Like that's my best description of this lady. You know, she wasn't all shriveled up or anything, but yeah, it's just so very old. And I had a lot of other details about this woman as well, but as the years have gone by, I don't really remember them anymore. I just remember describing exactly what she looked like and what she was saying and how she acted and her demeanor and the clothes that she wore. I was just trying to give every detail I could because my family was crying and I wanted to try to break away from that. So in the dream, again, this is a completely true story. In the dream, I said to, well, I didn't really say anything in the dream. I think I wanted to. And again, this happened a very long time ago, so the details might be a little fuzzy here, but I know that I really wanted to intervene, but I was just so confused at what was going on. My great-grandmother, Nanny, who was laying there, Nanny would say something to Mimi, and then Mimi would go all the way across the room to the rocking chair that was there, and she would say to the super old lady on the rocking chair what Nanny had said. And then the super old lady would hold her throat like this, and she would whisper to Mimi, and Mimi would go back and tell Nanny. And this happened back and forth and back and forth. And Nanny would say something, and Mimi would go back to the other side of the room to this rocking chair with the super duper old lady. And the super duper old lady would always hold her throat just like this, and she would whisper just like this, sort of a raspy whisper, and then go back to Nanny. And the conversation struck me as really weird because from the bits and pieces I could pick up in that dream, they were talking about how it was Nanny's time to come home. And I thought it was really weird because I was like, Nanny lives here. This is her home. Like, she lives here. And the super old lady, who I didn't know who it was at the time, she was just saying, like, it's time for you to come home. Like, I'm so glad to see you again. I'm so happy to have you. I've missed you, all this stuff. And Nanny was saying, it's so nice to be home. It's so nice to finally be home with you. And Mimi was just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like, talking between them. And then I woke up. And I was like, that was a weird dream. And that dream made my entire family cry. Because, as I found out later, Nanny had passed away that night. I had never really had a dream about her in the past. So that was weird already. But beyond that, we're walking again, by the way. Not that far. But beyond that, which, you know, that took me a very long time to get over because I absolutely loved her. But beyond that, the description of the woman that I gave, according to my family, perfectly, without a singular flaw, represented the picture of what my great-grandmother, so Nanny's mom, what she looked like. And I'd never seen a picture of her, and even if I did, it wouldn't have been a really colorized one. And she had passed away far before I was born. So that was already weird. And that whole conversation about going home, I mean, to me, it just clearly means going to heaven. But so far, if it was just that, maybe you could chalk it up to a coincidence. I already think that would be proof enough that God was telling me that Nanny was going to pass away that night and to not be afraid because she was okay. But maybe you could chalk it up to a coincidence. But the final detail that really just put the nail in the coffin for me was, according to my family, my great-grandmother, so Nanny's mom, once choked on a chicken bone or something like that. And from that day forward, she was never able to speak normally again. So she would always talk in raspy whispers and hold her throat like this every time she talked. I'd never heard a story about this woman. I had never seen a picture of her. I knew nothing about her. I knew nothing about what she looked like. I knew nothing about anything that happened in her life or how she acted. She passed away far before I was born. I had no context for any of this dream. Yet somehow, in just my brain, I managed to concoct a perfect image of her. Her entire backstory of the chicken bone thing to her exact demeanor, how she acted. Then the entire dream would transition into her conversation with my great-grandmother, and my great-grandmother just happens to pass away that night. There's no way it could have been a coincidence. And I know that, you know, probably everyone who watches my channel is not a Christian. I would imagine not everyone is a Christian. Not everyone believes in God, or not everyone even believes in a higher power of sorts or anything. This isn't really me saying, like, this is real, you're wrong, I'm right, here's my proof. It's nothing like that. I think that, I just think it's really interesting to hear all the sides of this. I mean, like I said, up until that point, I was sort of born and raised in the church. And it's sort of all I really knew. And after that, that was the moment that told me, like, at least for me, that was the moment where I was like, this is real. This isn't like a giant book club. Like, this is actually real. And, I mean, if you don't believe in God, or you don't believe in Jesus, or you don't know what to believe in, there is no part of me that, like, looks down on you, or that, you know, won't welcome you or anything like that. There's zero part of me. But at the same time, I want you guys to know that, like, this is one of the many things that makes me who I am. And that's sort of the point of all these videos that I'm going to be releasing over the next couple weeks. I swear we'll get back to the big, crazy, goofy stuff. I already have a hide-and-seek video filmed, and I already have a behind-the-scenes video for speedrunning with a pro speedrunner, a video filmed, and a bunch of other stuff that's really cool. The big Indiana Jones video came out September 1st and all that. But until then, until we get to all the big stuff, I really want to spend this time just telling you guys a little bit more about myself. So I hope you guys will stick around for the ride, and I hope you guys will subscribe if you feel like it. I have some pretty cool stuff coming out, and a lot of more interesting stories like this. But this is sort of going to be my only story about, like, religion and stuff, at least that I foresee. But this is sort of the first major building block on what made me who I am today. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. And one more thing I'll leave you guys with is, I really hope you enjoy the view that I hiked up to. I don't know if you believe in God or not, you personally watching this video right now, but as for me, someone who does believe in God, I will have to say that, I mean, he does have quite a magnificent paintbrush, if you know what I mean. Like, this is absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, that's all. I'll see you guys next week, every Sunday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with another story of something else that's, I don't know, just a part of who I am. So, yeah. Peace out, Epic Gamers.